AVG. Well, when the government gets involved, you know how it's gonna look. Well, that doesn't look good. But damn, look at that bad boy. The government did a great job at fixing that.
I mean, sometimes in boating, things aren't gonna look right, but no matter what, as long as they go right, it doesn't really matter. Just like some of the things we'll witness in this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. Like, I bet this guy has no problems down at the boat ramp getting that launched. But, on the other hand, sometimes it's exactly what it looks like. Kinda like this crew right here, who's gotten themselves into a little mischief with a bridge. Now, fortunately, after a little time had passed, somebody was able to come by and tow them out from underneath the bridge, but sometimes things don't look right in boating, kind of like this situation here, that old optical illusion that you didn't realize you were over the water. Or how about that one friend who always likes to get on the boat and wants to dance, but none of the rest of us want to watch? Fortunately, sometimes he'll take care of himself. I mean, this one is worse than it looks, actually, and the longer you stare at it, the more you see. And then, of course, sometimes in boating, the things that'll go wrong will be those things you can't see, kind of like when the power pole was stuck down and you couldn't see it. Then, of course, there are those times when you want to see something under the boat, kind of like mini lobster season down in South Florida, where you'll toss somebody behind the boat with a mask and a snorkel and hope that they see the lobster so you know where to dive. But maybe this is just a South Florida thing. I get sent videos like this all the time of somebody being drugged behind the boat, and they almost always are in Florida. Now, of course, when you're looking at things on the boat, there are many things that can go wrong, and sometimes they'll go wrong because you want to get too close to the things you want to see when you're out there on the water, kind of like this crew.
He's right on top of them. Like he just hit him with a jet ski. Wow, what a freaking idiot, man. He's still on top of them.
Then, of course, sometimes you're going to wind up seeing things under the water that you really don't want to see. I mean, it's not every time you get on a boat you expect to actually go under, but you're at the captain's mercy and what he decides to do. Do you think they did this one on purpose? And let me know in the comments how in the world Captain's hat stayed on, because I'll tell you what, everything should have been off on that one, including the sunglasses. Then, of course, sometimes Captain will improve the view and just put a hole right through the boat so you can see through it. And then, of course, your view sometimes will be that of a scenic cruise. Your husband promised one and he delivered. And then there are those times on the boat when you just need to look a little harder and pay a little better attention.
Yeah, get on the tilted so I can turn the boat around. Yeah, there you go. You got him? Go all the way around. All the way around the toll motor. Go way out and around the bow.
Now again, as we've mentioned, not everything always is as it appears in boating. Like, you see this situation and you would think the truck's in trouble, but the reality is that was just them trying to launch and retrieve the boat. Where I am a little confused though is it gets a little deeper right here. Why did they have to go that far out? I mean, maybe just to get over the sandbar, but I'm just guessing this boat would have made it through. But watch how deep it is even right here at the edge of the water. I mean, they could have got it launched and pulled right there. Then, of course, there are those things that you just don't see all the time out on the water. Kind of like a situation like this. It's not often you see things like this getting pulled behind a boat. And then some of our favorite things to witness are those hold my beer and watch this moments. But speaking of those moments, I swear to you, this is the luckiest man on the water.
Oh my god. No, are you good? I'm gonna kill you.
And then there are those moments that we don't want to see out in the water. If you're out there in the water, don't do this. And then of course, if you're out there in the water, you've always got to have that head on a swivel, always be looking around for everything and everyone to see what's going on so you don't wind up in a spot like this one. Speaking of winding up in spots, it's hard to believe that somebody does this on purpose, but they do it all the time. It's a famous tourist spot in Italy, and everybody just pulls themselves right into this cave. Now, of course, there are some things we really enjoy watching out there in the water, and that's when we see amazing feats and amazing events. And sometimes we see people out there just having fun, and it gets us stoked to want to have fun as well. Like, I want one of these little boats after watching him go at it. And I'll tell you what, if you thought that guy was having fun, wait till you see this guy. Now, of course, everybody says boating's expensive, but I guess it's only as expensive as you make it. I mean, if you've got a Ski-Doo in the garage, go ahead and break it out. Who needs a boat? I mean, boats only wind up in places like this. Now, of course, this one's always a wild scene. You've got the boat in the background, somebody singing karaoke in front of it, and people and tourists over here taking pictures. You would figure at some point they would try and get this out of the way because it's obviously in a famous tourist spot, but these tourists pay the price. And speaking of looking out for things, you always got to double check and make sure you got everything you need before you leave the crew boat. And of course, you always want to make sure you look that you have fuel in the old houseboat before you leave the dock. And then of course, if you just left the fuel dock because you were getting fuel, you always want to double check and make sure that somebody ran that blower before you leave the fuel dock. Other than that, you could find yourself in a spot like this. And of course, if you're unloading the boat, maybe you should check and make sure the boat's pulled all the way up to the dock before you start unloading. This one is a strange one to me. Why would you unload with a gap in between the dock? If you know, let me know in the comments so I can understand this one a little better. And then of course, one of the things you always want to look out for before you head out on the water to enjoy any kind of boating day is double checking that weather and making sure it's a good to go day for you to even be able to get out there. Or you could find yourself in a spot like this, out in the middle of the ocean, all on your own, losing a mast, and having to be rescued by a cargo ship. This one's pretty wild. As you saw the mast go down, let me know in the comments, was that intentional or do you think the weather actually took that down? Now obviously he's in trouble and he is being rescued. They've tossed a rescue line to the boat and they do wind up dragging him up and onto this cargo ship. It's still a wild scene. I have to imagine it's a very nerve-wracking thing to be out there in the water and know that you need rescue because things are just going wrong.
The boat went down. You can see the inside. That video is coming shortly. Well, BG, here we are inside the vessel we just towed.
It's always wild to me the amount of vessels that just get abandoned on our local waterways. Just the other day I was watching a story about 12 vessels that were just within a few miles of my house even, that were pulled out of local waterways, and this crew here winds up doing it all winter long up in Canada. Really is nuts to think how many boats just get left to rot out on the water because people don't know what to do with them.
Classic.
Thanks for watching, crew. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up at Facebook or Instagram at Broncos Guru and let us know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Sullivan Kemper, Jake Baskett, Nick Muchogusto, Lucarello88, and Adam Coolidge did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.